Hi, Rich Leiter here, and welcome to my channel, Naked Booktuber. Okay, so I just wanted to show you a painting which I recently completed. This is a reworking of a painting I started about a year ago. It's the Judith Leyster's self-portrait when she was 20 years old. This version does not look, doesn't have the same color scheme, I guess you'd call it, as the original version, which you can just find by typing in Google Judith Leyster self-portrait 1635, I think, and you'll come to it. It's in the National Gallery of Art, and you can blow it up and magnify it. And I reworked it. Because I tried to paint it very literally using exactly the same color scheme that Judith Leyster used, as far as I could tell from looking at an image on a computer screen. Sometimes the image looked kind of, browny green. Sometimes it looked gray. It depends what day what side of the bed I get up on each day, and it looks different each time. That's the problem with a computer screen. But I tried to be as literal as I could, and I didn't like it. I've been painting now for about a year in oil paints, and at this point, I really don't see any point in just painting more and more paintings before I feel satisfied with the ones I've already started. There's no point in going on, and so I was never really happy with the original version, and only recently I said I'm going to tinker with it until I get something that I'm happy with, that I really like looking at. And it took me about a year just to get into the frame of mind where I was confident enough to sort of, destroy the original version and build it up again. And so this is what I have. Let me just give you a better shot of the painting. It's hard to do with the lighting I have in this room. It doesn't work that well for this painting. There's Judith Leyster, dressed up in her formal attire at age 20. And there's the picture that she's painting of a fiddler. On an easel, and there is her palette. Okay, now I looked at this picture on the computer, and I squinted. I wasn't concerned anymore about the actual colors. I felt that was screwing me up. I was trying too hard to get the exact colors, and there were far too many brush strokes, and you can tell that I wasn't really at ease with what I was doing. So what I did is I just kind of squinted at the image on the computer. And when I squinted at the image, here's what I saw. I saw three different sections to the painting. There was kind of a dark, obviously there was Judith Leyster in the foreground, and the painting she's painting to the right of her. Okay. But as far as the background goes, there are three light sources. There are three sections to me. There's a section to the left of her. There's the third to the left of her, which is very dark. And then there's sort of a middle section, a transition section, which is lighter, leading up to the painting of the fiddler. And then there's the fiddler section. So you have... I can't really point right now. So you have those three sections, and I was more concerned with the tone of the than I was with the color. And when I did it that way, I just kind of played around with the darker section to the left third. I just used, I played around with white and ultramarine blue and yellow ochre and a little chrome green, and I just kind of played with them. And I kind of got a gray. There were so many shades of gray. I kind of got a dull, leaden, bluish gray color. There. And that's what it looks like. I got this leaden gray. Well, it looks kind of greenish here, but it looks leaden when in the real life. Okay? And then it's a little bit bluish there, but it's very, just basically very dark. And then I have my middle section, which is just ultramarine blue and white. Almost like a cloud in the middle section. And that leads up to the portrait, the painting itself she's working on. And because the ultramarine blue cloud is there, well, I went through many versions of the easel, the top of the easel, and I decided to paint it red. And I like it. It pops. And yet, what I like about this painting is, of course, not that it reproduces the whatever colors Judith Leyster used faithfully. What I like about it is that there is a surety, a confidence in the brush strokes. I know what I want, and I did it. Look, you don't really see any brush strokes, or you have to look hard to see them. It's all basically a kind of a solid, sure, confident color. And then you go to the middle section with the clouds, and you can see brush strokes, but they're confident. They're not tentative brush strokes. And then you have the little man. Now, the little man is tricky to do because you don't want the little man to be too indistinct, but you don't want him to overpower the painting either. In a way, I kind of find the picture of the fiddler to be actually even more interesting than the face and body of Judith Leyster. This kind of a deep, rich, alizarin crimson outfit that the fiddler has, set against kind of a greenish background, which really brings it out. I really like that. And it's a very distinct shape. Really stands out from the rest of the picture. I had to work on her face for a long, long time. I did like 5 or 6 coats, and it still could use an extra coat, I suppose, to make it really stand out. And I worked very hard on her collar because the collar was always a little bit too dull. And I wanted it to the collar, if you squint at the painting, the collar and her headdress and her face, this is the brightest part of the painting. So I wanted it to really stand out. It took me several tries to get it bright enough. I had to darken her dress. At first it was just gray, sort of a dull gray, and then I glazed it over and made it darker and darker until I got the right combination, the right tone. What I noticed also about this painting is that, and in general, now that I've been painting in oils for a while, is that what's important is to have a background which is neutral enough so that it makes the foreground stand out. What I used to do is if I had a red, for instance, in the foreground, maybe a figure's dress was red, well, then I would go on automatic pilot and I would paint the background blue, because blue and red kind of contrast each other, right? But I found that doesn't really work that well. I found that the best thing to do is to use some kind of a dull, neutral color to make the foreground of whatever painting you're working on come out. And that's what I have here. And once you realize you want a neutral color, it's not as critical that you get the exact color that you think she used. It'll work anyway. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I guess this will only be of interest to people who paint. You know, and the strange thing is, when I finished working on this version of it, there wasn't an aha moment where I says, oh, I got it now. This is what I was looking for. It was very strange. I looked at it, and I just kind of stopped, and I stared at it for a while, and I guess I was too involved with the painting process to realize that this is exactly what I wanted. After about 15 minutes or so, I said, yeah, this is what I was looking for. This is a vast improvement over the first copy I made, where I was trying to be so literal, you know. So I relaxed a bit. You know, I only revised this painting because I literally didn't care anymore about whether I ruined it. I wasn't being sloppy about my revision, but I had to have sort of a let go attitude where I let go of my rigidity. And I just wanted to see, let's see what happens. Let's just play with the color and see if we can get something by accident, which is better than the first version. And you kind of have to know when to stop, recognize that the accident has happened, the felicitous accident, and stop there. And that's what I think I was able to do in this painting. And I can't do it in a lot of my paintings, but I do think that I did it in this one. It's very striking to me. I mean, I just have a visceral feeling when I look at it. The little man is completely different color-wise. I mean, in the original version, he's some kind of a brownish, greenish color, his suit, and the background is kind of a brownish color too. I couldn't even tell what it was. And I just know that I couldn't do it, and I was disgusted with trying to do it. And I played with it. And so when I copy a painting like this, to get a version that I'm satisfied with, it's really a very creative process. A lot of people might say, well, where's your stuff, your original stuff? Well, this requires, to me, a lot of experimentation, and I have to put a lot of myself into it. It's not just slavishly copying an image on a computer screen. You can do that, but it'll suck. It'll look ordinary and average. And this doesn't to me. Also, the background of the little man, the fiddler. You know, I was looking at the way that the old masters, the Renaissance masters, painted trees. And I noticed that they always painted the trees with two colors. They painted the trees, the dark parts of trees, with kind of a blackish purple, I guess you'd call it. Something very, very deep, almost like this, like a deep brownish reddish color. They even turns purple. And then for the leaves, the glint of the leaves, they'll paint it in green, some kind of a green, a dull green, a yellow green, a green with white in it to show the glint of the leaves. I noticed that with Leonardo's Annunciation. I was able to blow up the trees, the image on the site I go to, and I saw that. I looked at Botticelli's paintings. I looked at several masters, and they all kind of did the trees in a very, very bluish, blackish, purplish way, and a greenish glint for the trees. And that's what I was thinking of when I did this. As you can tell, I'm very excited about this painting. You know, as a person, as a human being, character-wise, I don't think I've really changed that much in like 70 years. I just haven't changed very much. But when it comes to my painting, my tastes in painting now, my aesthetics, my taste has changed radically. And I do see that. It's obvious. Once I stopped trying to paint in an abstract way and trying to paint representationally, everything changed for me. And even the style that I like, that I'm drawn towards, a very crisp, precise style, I never realized that I was very much drawn to that. You know, there's a lot of paintings or instructions on YouTube on how to paint like John Singer Sargent. You know, the broad brushstroke, kind of like the Zen brushstroke. It's almost like Franz Klein, the way they describe it. You do that one brushstroke and that will get the image, that will get the face, that will get what you're looking for. There are an inordinate number of videos on Sargent, and you don't see that many on copying or trying to paint in a Renaissance style. You just don't. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason that so many people seem to want to paint like Sargent is because it's quick. It's alla prima. It's quick. And maybe it's their way of doing something which they think is easier. I'm not saying Sargent is easier, but I think a lot of these people think it is easier. It's a shortcut to making a painting. And I like Sargent, but at this stage in my development, I'm not really drawn to Sargent that much. I'm drawn more to Renaissance paintings, to Italian Renaissance and to Netherlands, Dutch Golden Age paintings. I just like something about the precision. Didn't know that. You know, in abstract painting, it's all about the process, you know. It's about making marks and then going over the marks and the struggle to create the image. I mean, you look at a painting by Joan Mitchell or de Kooning, and, you know, it's one brushstroke, you can get the sense that he's struggling. You're seeing the actual process. And you don't get that sense at all, of course, in the Renaissance paintings. Most of the time you don't see any brushstrokes. The whole concept of process and struggle must have been something foreign to them. They would have probably laughed at that notion. I'm interested in something more precise and crisp and sure. You know, Judith Leyster did another self-portrait at the end of her life when she was, I guess, 50. I think she died when she was 50. And it's a very, very sobering portrait to compare with this. I mean, look at the face here. Look at the enthusiasm of this young woman. The joy of life in her face. And then you see the picture of her when she's 50, an experienced woman, and how experience has left its mark on her. It's also quite a picture. And so that's my picture of Judith Leyster. I don't believe I'm going to tinker with it anymore. Thank you for listening to my incoherence.